Good evening, race fans. Welcome to Rubbins Racing Next Gen Series Round 10, Atlanta Motor Speedway, every Tuesday night. Sponsored by Team Goon Squad, 1080p, 60 frames per second. 1 hour long race to here today. Just to remind these drivers do have one fast repair in these races here today, and also great racers with great attitudes. 90 lap race here today at Atlanta Motor Speedway, the 1.5 mile track in the center of the United States in Atlanta, Georgia. Altitude is 843 feet, so yeah, pretty low down. Straight, as I said, in the middle of the United States. Track temperatures looking to be around about 84 degrees, so a little bit on the high side. These drivers may have to battle with tyre wear just a little bit more than usual. I'm going to jump back now into qualifying standings. As it stands at the moment, we have Dominic DeLeo, or Nick Leo even, in that P1 spot in the number 69 dual back machine, followed by Dominic DeLeo in 22 forward P3 or P2, and Rob Mathis Jr. is your top three here today. Drivers very close, within a couple tenths of each other, all the way back to around about P9. Those drivers are around about 4 tenths behind each other, so very close. We're just waiting for our final drivers to finish their laps around this track. So we just got on board with Garrett Hall here in the 13 Ford machine, putting his lap down. We'll be able to make it any higher than 11th place on the grid here today. You'll see Atlanta Motor Speedway is a very quick track. A lot of wear on that right front tyre. The drivers are definitely have to worry about that. Definitely something they're going to have to be aware of, and making sure they're not burning up, raising those tyre temperatures and not making those tyres last as long as they could be. As it looks like Garrett Hall at the moment, as it stands, is still in P11. I'm not quite sure if he's finished his second quick lap. There's a little bit of a moment into the apron there. That is it, I'm pretty sure, for our qualifying results. So, your grid here today. On our pole position, we have Nick Leo and number 69 dual back machine, followed by Dominic DeLeo running out your front two. Rod Mathis Jr. in P3, Aaron Sire in P4, Kevin Haas in P5, Steven Gibson in P6, Jake Vanoski P7, Carter Linton P8, David Reed P9, Leaf Smith in P10, followed by Garrett Hall in P11, Marcus Sarno, your P12 driver today. Running out the grid, we have Matt Kleeman in P13, and the number 19 back machine, rounding out your grid here today. Drivers just getting ready now to roll onto the racing surface to get going here at Atlanta Motor Speedway. Just a couple more minutes, folks, and our action will be right underway. As we said before, the number 69 dual back machine of Nick Leo will be controlling our restart here today, as he is on that pole position. Just a quick reminder, the lap, we have a 90 lap race here today, so even if he does get a not good start, or maybe there's an incident early on, that couldn't be, well, that won't be the end of the race, because that's a caution. Remember, they still have that fast repair. They can use that early on if they want to, or they can choose to take the repairs if they think they might get involved in an incident later on in the race. However, if their caution comes out, they can use that fast repair as a get out of jail free card for these drivers. So it just keeps everyone in a nice tight pack and things don't spread out as people get involved in incidents. As we're just rolling now on our pace lap, ready to go green. The driver's just waiting in formation now, going down the back stretch out of turn 2. I'm excited for this one for sure. Pace car goes in. Getting ready for a restart now. As we go green at London Speedway, looks like DeLeo is off to a good start on the inside line. Looks like Dominic DeLeo in the 22 got a little bit of a bad run. Now going side by side with Rubbins Jr. for that P2 spot behind him. The dream start for Nick Leo as he's able to split the lanes and control the start. As drivers now getting 3 wide, I think, at the back for a second there. You have a battle now going on for that P2 spot, I believe, between Alan Sayed, Gavin Haas and Stephen Gibson. At the back, they go 2 wide into turn 3. Going focusing back on the leader, Nick Leo. That's a really good start for him. He's able to stretch that gap already. He already has a bit of a safety cushion. A couple tenths is the gap at the moment. Choosing to run that high line maybe to save his dives. Very much choosing the lower line, which is the shortest distance. The drivers may be thinking, right, we've got to run the high line. We'll be a little bit slower, but it means our tyres will last longer. And overall in that race stint, we will finish with a quicker time. It looks like we may have an incident further back. Unfortunately, looks like we can't get a camera on that. I think Mark Cassano was involved in that one. We're going to be later on if we have the chance to. There's Nick Leo stretching out that gap already. It looks like Dominic DeLeo is sticking right behind him. He's closing just a little bit, but he's holding that gap. Maybe he's just trying to think about being more conservative for the time being, as it is not cleared 90. We have a long way to go here at London Motor Speedway. We still have a sizable amount left. Looks like Carter Lynn's on his way out of pit road. Which, by the time in the stop, he did take a fresh of the tyres and a full tank of gas. I've put 2 very, very close together as they're starting to break away. Maybe it's a top 3 there, I believe. Rubbins Jr. in that P2 spot, dropping down just a little bit. But that gap behind him is so large that it looks like we've got a bit of a breakaway pack going. He's able to control the race pace at the moment. It looks like Dominic DeLeo is getting really, really close to the bumper of the number 69 dual back of Nick Leo. Will he be able to make a move? It looks like he's having a look down the inside into the tri-oval as they go 2 wide. That's Dominic DeLeo in the 22 on the inside. He has the run initially. But the high line will have the run down the back stretch. We have metal crunching in the background. We have smoke. And it looks like our Stephen Gibson involved in that one. He was down on the apron. It looks like Nick Leo, for the time being, is able to hold it. Although Dominic DeLeo isn't giving up. He's holding that inside line. He's sticking his nose in there. Make sure Nick Leo can't go onto that low line, or that low line even, and defend him. Letting Nick Leo know he is there and he is ready to play. They're still going 2 wide now for the second lap. Still 2 wide coming into turn 3. Neck and neck down the stretch. However, this is not what they want. If they want lap times, you can see Rubbins Jr. is able to catch up just a little bit. He's starting to gain on those 2 leaders. They start to lose time as they battle. So maybe and Kevin Haas maybe get the chance to catch up as they're trying to work together possibly to catch up to our leaders once again. It looks like Dominic Leo has given up on that attempt. And Nick Leo is able to hold it on the outside. Great job by him. Looks like we have a lap traffic just ahead. That may become a factor in the next couple of laps or so. So it looks like Dominic DeLeo is going to try and make another move down the inside of Nick Leo coming into turn 4. Will he be able to make a stick this time? Looks like Nick Leo on the high line still has that run. It looks like Nick Leo on the outside line is just able to hold that position because Dominic DeLeo will have the advantage going into the corner. But the Highlander has such a better exit speed that it's just compensating for it, and he's just able to defend that high line. So as long as Nick Leo can hold that outside line, I don't think, unless Dominic Leo can put up a good fight on the inside and maybe use a little bit more tyres to do so. Our front two will stay as it is. It looks like it was spinning. And as a driver down onto the tri-ovals, it looks like, I believe, David Reed was involved in that one, as it looks like we have damage to the back of Dominic DeLeo there in the number 22. Our P2 driver won't be very happy about that. I think we'll need a replay. We have our Wreckage Rewind. It looks like David Reed, who was that lap car I was talking about earlier, goes down onto the grass. Has a little bit of a moment, tries to save it, but just can't quite get it, hitting that wall. And then he was just a sitting duck for the rest to happen, I guess. It looks like our driver's able to avoid him, but no. That was Dominic DeLeo. He hit the wall trying to avoid him. So it wasn't the contact with the lap down car that caused him to have that damage. It looks like Nick Leo has a little bit of front damage to the front right as well. So both these drivers are limping around with a little bit of damage. Will these drivers decide to take that fast repair now, or just stick it out as long as they can, because it is a little bit early to pit? Bear in mind, these drivers should be pitting around about once in this race. If they commit to a pit stop now, they will have to stop again before the end, and the rest of the drivers will not. So maybe it's not the best strategy choice. However, they're thinking, will I lose too much lap time with that damage? So it looks like Nick Leo is choosing to go down pit road, followed by Dominic DeLeo, Robert Mathis Jr. Pretty much the whole field choosing to pit here. If these shake things up, maybe Nick Leo is just going to take the fast repair and go. Maybe he's not going to take fuel. Maybe he's just going to take fuel and no tyres to try and stay out in front. The drivers pulling into their pit stalls now. No one seems to have overshot. It looks like Nick Leo did take that fast repair along with Dominic DeLeo. They're now making their way out of pit roads. It looks like they're all taking a fresh set of tyres each. Just bear in mind now, these drivers have used their fast repair already. That means they do not have it later on in the race. If they get involved in an incident, that is toast. They are back to the virtual hauler, and that is their race over. So now they're definitely running the risk of that happening, especially using it so early on in this race. We still have over 75 laps to run. It looks like Nick Leo is able to come out in that P2 spot. Currently our highest climber, Matt Clement, in number 19 back forward, up 7 spots from where he began in the P6 spot at the moment in the Pentail-backed machine. Brilliant job from him, clawing his way up the field. It looks like Marco Sano is also up 5 spots from where he began in that P7 spot. However, Garrett Hall as well up 6 spots. We have a lot of high climbers in that mid-pack at the moment, starting from the back of the grid, making their way up. It looks like Robert Mathis Jr. has chosen to go to pit road as he's missing his front bumper. I'm not sure if anything happened under the caution that I missed, or maybe he didn't take that fast repair the first time he pit. Either way, he's down pit road and he'll be shot right down to the back of the grid. We're back in the iRacing conditions for the first caution of the night. As you can see, we only have 9 drivers on our lead lap already. We've already lost 4 drivers on that lead lap. However, we still have a long way to go. If they still manage to keep running and stay with the pack, they could get that all-important lucky dog and get that lap back that they lost. So it's all not, well, it's all not toast yet for Carter Linz in the number 4 at Ford Mustang. Also Jake Vanoski as well. Another strong runner from last week out. usually a strong pace and a force to be reckoned with. So it looks like he gets the lucky dog, so it looks like he's going to be getting 1 lap back. He's going to be only 1 lap down now at the end of this. Back under right pacing conditions as the lights go off on top of the pace car, so it's 1 to green here, folks. 2 more corners to go before we get some more green flag action between our 2 drivers at the front and the rest of our grid. See if we can get some more shake-ups. Maybe McCleeman, the number 6 machine, or correction, in the 19 machine, shall I say, will be able to claw up even more spots and make his way up maybe into that top 5. It is just right outside it at the moment. Get that all-important points for the championship, because they are in the dying stages now, round 10 of the season. It's definitely not early on here, folks. It looks like our drivers are shifting into that second gear, getting ready for that restart. Once again, trolled by Nick Leo in the 69 back dual machine. Looking out turn 4, the pace car dives in. Let's prepare for this restart. It's green flag racing once again on lap 15. Looks like Cinder foul line pretty quickly as Nick Leo is off to a good start in the number 69, holding that first position once again. Got a little bit of that in going in front of that. It looks like it was Rob Mathis Jr. on Garrett Hall. Mark Cassano, excuse me. In the number 44, so it looks like he's trying to get down below out of turn 4. We're going to take the loose stick. They'll still go 2 wide onto the tri-oval. And into turn 1. Very, very close to banging doors there. Into turn 2 there, still side by side. Cassano will have the draft, however. Marcus Jr. is on his own on that inside line, and no one's there to push him, no one to draft off. It looks like Marcus Jr. was able to get out in front initially, however Marcus on that outside line, getting the run once again. Now going to switch back to our leaders once again as Dominic Leo is getting even closer once again to the back of Nick Leo. Will Dominic Leo able to make the move this time round before the next caution flies? He gets everyone ever closer to that P1 spot that everyone so much wants. Looking at Marcus Jr. trying to make his way up into P5 now. Great moves from him. It looks like Dominic DeLeo is going to choose that inside line. He'll be able to make a stick this time, then the next one on the inside line will have the run down the back stretch, as it looks like Dominic DeLeo isn't able to make that run. If Dominic DeLeo keeps running that low side, he can risk burning up his tyres too much. Sticking him behind Nick Leo will probably be the best decision in this case, because he can just stick him behind and choose the right one to attack. Maybe not this early in the race, maybe later on, maybe lap 80. Or in the last quarter of the race, maybe turn it up in the aggressive bit. But for now, he should just stick behind to save his tyres. Make sure he has his tyres there for the end for that final push. It looks like we have a car spinning in the background. That's Mark Cassano. I think he was able to save it though. You can see in the distance, brilliant job from him to keep that car in the straight line and not cause another caution. Looks like Dominic DeLeo once again choosing that low line. Trying to edge away at that leader Dominic DeLeo that has. Trying to get onto his bumper. Trying to get that all-important track position that he so wants at this point. back on board with him as he looks like he's going into the wall. Not sure if that will cause a caution. No, it won't. The green flag flies still. It looks like Dominic De Leo is up into the wall, and it looks like he has major damage to his engine as well. He has already used his fast repair here tonight. That was the risk I was talking about. Running the risk of using their fast repair so early is that this may happen where they get involved in an incident and they have no get out of jail free card left. So that should be him back to the virtual hauler with repairs like that. Unfortunate to see a driver go like that. However, that is the risks of racing. As Michael Massey once said, we were motor racing, Michael. Looks like Nick Leo now able to stretch that lead for over 1 second. So he's out of the draft. It looks like Aaron Sire is up into that P2 spot. However, he doesn't have that draft to help him along and save fuel. He's having to do all that work on his own now. Hasn't got anyone to copy that line work off. So it looks like Matt Clayman is trying to line up a move on Garrett Hall. He's getting ever and ever closer. Getting even closer to the back of that number 13 of Garrett Hall. Looks like Garrett Hall choosing to go defensive on that inside line, not giving Clayman the opportunity to go down the inside just yet. These drivers have got to think if they go defensive and take non-optimal lines, it could hurt them in the long run in terms of tyres. They definitely have to watch out for that, as it looks like Matt Clayman is going to choose that inside line once again. They're side by side coming into the tri-oval into one. It looks like Matt Clayman was able to take that position initially. He's able to cut back across. Brilliant move from him, moving up into that P5 spot, up 8 spots from where he began. Nick Leo is stretching out that gap even more now. The gap 1.4 seconds between him and Aaron Sire in that P2 spot. It looks like Aaron Sire is under threat from Kevin Haas and Robin Mathis Jr. They're starting to form a 3-pack there. Kevin Haas is getting ever closer once again to the back of that 42 machine. Well, Math Jr. not leaving out of the action. He's still there tagging along at the back, waiting for something to happen, waiting for the right opportunities to run. Take on them, as it looks like Kevin Haas is going to try and go too wide down the back stretch. Looks like Mathis Jr. This is the opportunity I was just talking about that last corner ago. He's going to be taking that high line now as they're still side by side. Remember, the high line will have the run, and he also has the draft of Aaron Sire ahead of him. As they're still side by side, Ron Mathis Jr. on that outside line. It looks like he has the run and the draft. He's able to make the move stick. Making his way up into that P4 spot, now at 1 spot from where he began. It looks like no. Kevin Haas is saying none of that. The number 3 machine, he's going back down the inside, making it too wide once again. They're too wide in front as well, as it looks like that's a lapped down car. It looks like that's Aaron Sire going down onto the apron there. That's not ideal for him. He's had to shuffle down the order a little bit. He's now under threat from Matt Clayman and Garrett Hall. It looks like, back into the back, it is. Yeah, that's David Reed in the number 52 machine getting in the way there. Not much he could have done. He couldn't have got onto the grass. He's just trying to make sure he stays out of the way as much as he can, not impacting the racing as much as he can. Look like Garrett Ford is able to take that provisional spot back once again. Aaron Sire being shuffled down the order even more. Back into that P5 spot. Going to go back to our leader once again. 2.4 seconds I got now between Kevin Haas and Nick Leo. Brilliant job from him to keep stretching out that gap even more. Giving him that all-important safety cushion behind him. He hasn't got to worry about being overtaken. He can focus on saving his tyres. Maybe saving a little bit of fuel to help him in the long run here. He can think about strategy game a lot more now that he's got the time and the space to think about it. Bear in mind though, it's still early days in this race. Lap 35 of 90 here at Atlanta Motor Speedway. Battling by the back. Looks like Matt Claimer is able to get past Aaron Sire, shuffling down once again. One more spot to P6. This is what I mean. This circuit, or this kind of racing in general, is very punishing if you make a mistake, especially with drivers so close together. You just get tipped down the order so quickly. Aaron Sire originally in that P2 spot, being shuffled down to P6. He is sticking with the back of Matt Claiman though, so maybe he'll be able to make that move back and stick in that draft. Hopefully he can make his way back up if he tries hard enough, or he hasn't used too much of his tyres already in this race defending. This is our closest battle at the moment on track, so we're going to keep watching this. The drivers now start to battle a bit more tyre wear. You can see the drivers having to lift even more through these corners now. Try and make it around and not burn up too much of the tyres. We go on board for one lap with that P6 here of Aaron Sire taking that inside line. Maybe trying to make an inside wall. Having a look down the inside. Coming out of turn 2, can't quite make it stick however. Gonna have to stick right back behind that cone once again. See this driver's heavy tyre management now. On lap 37 of 90, they need to make these tyres last the distance. They still should have one pit stop left in this race. You need to make sure if these tyres are gone as long as possible, if you can stretch these tyres longer than your opponents, then you'd have the advantage later on in the race with the fresher tyres who can pit later. Looks like Aaron Sire just taking that look down the inside once again. Can't quite make it stick forever, can't quite get the move done. He's just a little bit too far back. Now Clayman though, our current highest gainer, 8 spots from where he began in that P5 spot. Garrett Ford also up 7 spots from where he began, right in front of him in that P4 position. Both these drivers making their way up really quickly, showing the field what they're made of. Checking in back with our leader Nick Leo. Gap still 2.4 seconds between himself and Kevin Haas in the number 3 machine. Kevin Haas up 3 spots from where he began. At the moment, as it stands, Nick Leo showing us how it's done here at Atlanta. Showing us how you race the strategy. And how you can edge that gap out in front. He's still able to maintain that gap around about 2.2, 2.3 seconds. See Kevin Haas behind. Maybe he's thinking more about tyres, making sure he can make him last a distance longer than his opponents. If he can make those tyres last longer, he will have the advantage to the end of the race with the fresher tyres, which will be a huge advantage, especially if we go for a green white checkered attempt. Here at the Bucker Robin Racing Next Gen Series, we have two green white checkered attempts, shall I say? Meaning if we do not get the green white checkered after that second attempt, the race will end under caution. However, with those green white checkers, the pack is all bunched up once again. Drivers with those fresher tyres will have a huge advantage, and will just have those spots in front of them to just take. Almost like taking candy from a baby if you're on fresh tyres and everyone else is on 40 lap olds. You have a huge advantage, as they do not have the time advantage, the gaps that they would have had before the caution, which may have been able to protect them, because you're all so close together. There's no such advantage. As we approach the midpoint of this race, lap 43 of 90. Here at the Rubbins Racing's Next Gen Series, round 10. It looks like in the background Aaron Sire was able to get past Matt Bateman again. Matt Bateman back down into P6, however he is still joined our highest climber. Garrett Hall still in that P4 spot, doing an absolutely brilliant job. Now maybe lining up a go on Robin Mathis Jr. or just closing that gap and sticking in behind him, maybe playing the mental game. Making sure his front bumper is in his rear mirror, that's all he can see. Surely that's got to get to Robin Mathis Jr.'s head, and maybe, just maybe force him into an unforced error, or into a forced error maybe. Drivers now got to think about their pit strategy once again. Pit stops will be coming up soon. Will the drivers choose to pit early? Will they try and stretch it long and have the tyre advantage at the end or at the beginning? Will track position or tyre advantage be the prevailing strategy? Been pretty clean here tonight at Atlanta on the road speedway. Drivers keeping it only one caution so far. One caution in 47 laps is definitely not something to not bad. It really isn't bad, these drivers keeping it nice and clean, keeping their noses clean. Bear in mind they still have one fast repair, so they do have one get out of jail free card, and they want to avoid using it if they can, just for the assurance that something happens they will be able to get away with it in terms of damage at least. As I will point back, our leader Nick Cleo has already used his fast repair here today, so if he gets involved in anything else, any light scuffles, any damage, that number 69 car, that is, he is going to have to stay with that unless you can get it repaired for the remainder of the race. So it looks like Garrett Hall is able to make his way up into that P3 spot, now up 8 spots. Where he began on that 48 of 90. Coming out of turn 4. Looked like Kevin Haas was staying around about the same gap. Give or take a couple tenths. Around about 2 seconds behind. Maybe he's trying to think about the long game once again. Maybe he's saving his tyres, just waiting for that moment to pounce in the dying embers. Try and take that first place spot and the all important points for the championship. I see an absolutely brilliant fight with some close unit drivers. So it looks like Rob Mathis Jr. is going to maybe line up an attempt back on Garrett Hall to take back that third spot that he lost a couple laps ago. It looks like Rob Mathis Jr. is going to be the first man to go down pit road for his green flag pit stop. Be interesting to see if he takes all his tyres and a full tank of gas. Will he be able to make it to the end on that 51 of 90? Is he relying on another caution to take place? Let's see how that plays out later on. As I believe that is Jake Vinosky coming out of pit road. I see Jake Vinosky is currently 4 laps down off from the leader. So not an ideal situation. However, he is on those fresh tyres now. Maybe I'll take that lap back that he just lost. If the leaders do let him past. Maybe he's banking on some cautions to help him out. As you have to remember though, as the drivers pit here at Atlantis Motor Speedway, they do go a lap down. So if a caution comes out, they will have the lucky dog, but they're forced to the back of the field, whilst the drivers in front get a free pit stop, and they can keep their position. So it's definitely a risky move to take, especially because we haven't gone without a caution for so long in this race. Another one's bound to happen, surely. Surely there'll be another caution. It looks like Aaron Sire has also chosen to come down pit road, taking a full set of tyres and gas. It looks like he's in pit road for 1 minute and 34 seconds. So maybe he's trying to get some repairs done. And the number 42 Chevrolet. During this overlap stage now, these drivers need to make sure they don't lose any time. Making sure they don't lose any time, making sure that their pit strategy works, because in this overlap period your pace matters. If you haven't got anyone to go off, you need to make sure your lap times are still up there, because you have no reference. Apart from the times you were setting before. So you have a leader just dealing with some lap traffic. But Jake Vinosky is going to be moving down to the inside. Maybe to take 1 lap back to be 3 laps down from the leader. Crossing the line. Looks like Nick Leo won't be letting him past. Have chosen to pit. Kevin Haas, our P2 driver, has also chosen to pit, followed by Garrett Hall. David Reed and Dominic DeLeo are all down in pit road. It looks like now Nick Leo, our leader, has chosen to come down pit road. Choosing the long game here, making sure he has those tyres left at the end of the stint. This should be his final pit stop of the race, as Matt Kleeman chooses to go further on in this race. Getting his all important points for leading. To help him out in his championship hopes to finish as high as he can in the points at the end of the season. He has our only driver on the lead lap at the moment, as one with Nick Leo, as the overlap period continues. Nick Leo is making his way out of pit road. But Nick Leo in his stop for about 16 seconds, so he's taking a full tank of gas and tyres and maybe a little bit of repairs. Make sure that 69 car is as clean as possible. Making sure no drag is being caused by any outlying components. Just holding back that 69 car as it looks like the number 3 of Kevin Haas is able to make it past the number 69. However, the 69 will have the tyre advantage in the long run. So now Nick Leo will have the tyre advantage for the remainder of this race, or at least until the next pit stop period. McClaymon now choosing to come down pit road. Rob Mathis Jr. will now be up permission on the leader. See Rob Mathis Jr. doing a great job leading those laps, getting those all important points he needs. Over further back, Nick Leo sticking behind Kevin Haas for the beginning of, at least for the time being, as it looks like the 44 has got up into the wall. Marco Zano running our leaders past once again. Nick Leo knows he has the tyre advantage in the long run, especially to the end of the race. Those 2-lap pressure tyres, however much he has, is going to be a huge difference when those tyres stop dropping off, or start dropping off. As Nick Leo's tyres, if he holds on to them, will not drop off for another 2 laps. And that 2-lap window will be his time to overtake and get ahead of Kevin Haas for that all-important race lead. It looks like though Rob Mathis Jr. for the time being, he did choose to pit early, so he has got initial tyre advantage, being able to stretch that gap. However, Kevin Haas and Nick Leo will have the advantage for the end of the race. They'll just be closing that gap. There's only a matter of time before Mathis Jr. has to start defending from those cars behind to maintain that track position. But for now, he's all nice sailing out in front, trying to save as much tyre as he can before the onslaught begins. Looks like Nick Lewis, we're going to make a move down the inside into turn 3 on the low line. Will he be able to make it work? So it looks like they're still side by side. Kevin Haas with the advantage slightly on that outside line. Nick Leo just getting ever and ever closer in turns 1 and 3. However, it looks like Kevin Haas is able to make it back. The time that he loses back on those straightaways, he gets the draft from Rob Mathis Jr. in the front. Still side by side. As you can see though, that gap to Rob Mathis Jr. is just closing and closing. These two drivers, Nick Haas and Nick Leo, know they're catching quickly and need to dispatch of him as soon as possible in order to lot too much time or lose too much time and all important tyres. As it looks like Nick Leo is able to edge in front and just squeeze Kevin Haas into that wall, forcing out, taking that P2 spot as he goes down the inside as Kevin Haas turns Nick Leo. 24 laps to go in this race. Nick Leo holding it together after that spin. The caution doesn't fly. Absolute heartbreak for him. He's going to make up that time if he can. As he loses more positions. 44. Able to get back past him. Taking his lap back. As now he's under threat from Matt Clayman in the number 19. Right, why now, Nick Leo. Having spun on those tyres, that's definitely going to hurt their longevity. And how long they're going to last. Nick Leo stuck behind the number 44 of Mark Cassano on that outside lines. It looks like Matt Clayman is able to take that spot initially. Nick Leo moving all the way back down to P4 now, down 3 spots from where he began. From that pole position, our current high climber Matt Clayman up 10 spots from where he began, P3 now. He is making his way up, keeping his nose nice and clean, not getting involved in any incidents, which has helped him gain those 3 positions as drivers ahead have collided. Looks like the stars have aligned for him and he has just parted the clouds. We have 20 laps to go. Lap 70 of 90 here at Atlanta Motor Speedway of the Rubbins Racing Next Gen Series, sponsored by Bookkicker. Presented by Team Goon Squad at 10 to 60 frames a second. Nick Leo sticking in behind Matt Clayman. He's going to be looking to make that move back as quick as he can so he doesn't lose enough time. To maybe, just maybe, have a chance of getting back. They're going to with him once again. On that number, Chevrolet, number 69. As you can see there, Mark Cassano having a little bit of damage to that left side pod, or left side pod, excuse me, the left door of the number 69 machine. I'm not sure if that'll be bodywork damage or a little bit of drag, I'm not sure. However, that surely cannot be good for the number 69. Back up front though, it looks like Kevin Haas are going to be moving down the inside of Bob Mathis Jr., taking the lead of the race. Mathis Jr. on those older tyres, just a sitting duck for our leaders on the fresher ones. We got to make the move back and stick in the draft. So it looks like Kevin Haas is able to stretch that gap just a little bit more now. Kevin Haas, our new leader, up 4 spots from where he began. There's 17 laps to go. This is where he wants to be now. The gap to Nick Leo so far behind. Matt Clayman 6 seconds behind Kevin Haas. That's 6 seconds, over 6 seconds the gap between Nick Leo and Kevin Haas now. Nick Leo maybe not looking at the win now. Will he be able to get this podium? Matt Clayman is the only man standing in his way. Here's 16 laps to do it. Will he be able to make it before the end of the race? Let us know in the chat. What do you think will happen? Who do you think will be our winner? Do you think it will be last minute drama? Green, white, checkered. Anything can happen here on the iRacing service. I'm sure we all know that from experience. Over 1 caution tonight, which is very, very impressive from these drivers, keeping their nose clean, relatively clean, or if they're involved in an incident, making sure they're off the racing surface, not making that yellow flag fly. However, because of that, our field has stretched out a little bit. caution could switch things up for our drivers, give another opportunity for them to pit. As it looks like as Robert Mathis Jr. onto the apron. Not quite sure what's happened to him, but he shuffled him down to P4. That puts McLeo into that P3 spot, which is the podium that he needs for those points. However, Matt Clayman oh so close to the front of him now. Will he be able to capitalise and take that P2 spot? Getting even more points to that tally on the number 69. Ryan Nickleo is our current championship leader with 224 points, 3 wins to his name. Is still our closest on track, I believe. Actually, no. Looks like Aaron Sire is going to be lining up and move on. Garrett Hall in front for that number 7 spot. Look, that gap's just closing and closing. 5 tenths to 4 tenths to 3 tenths it is now, coming into 3. He seems to have the pace. Will he be able to dispatch him nice and quickly to not lose a whole lot of time? And maybe think about drivers ahead, if he has the tyres to do so. One tenth the gap now, bumper to bumper. Number 13, Garrett Hall and Aaron Sire, excuse me. In the number 42 as he moved to the inside line to get the move done. Still side by side, it looks like Aaron Sire is able to have the advantage into the corner, meaning he can get that track position back off him. He can defend that inside line and make a nice block, making sure that 13 doesn't get the run. There's Aaron Sire now. Aaron Sire up in that P7 spot now. A brilliant job from him. Looking in with our leader though, Kevin Haas. 5.2 seconds the gap to Matt Clayman. He is in great space with 7 laps to go. He has all the time in the world to save his tyres. Maybe not pushing too hard, making sure he doesn't make any mistakes to bring home the win. That's all he has to do. Just keep his nose clean, making sure nothing happens for the next 7 laps. And he will be crowned our champion here today at Atlanta Motor Speedway, getting that number 1 spot. 7 laps stand in his way. It looks like Nick Leo has dropped back just a little bit from Matt Clayman. 1 second's the gap. Maybe Nick Leo has just spent a little bit too much tyres trying to battle him, trying to get those positions back, or the spin, which has caused him to drop back because he just doesn't have anything left in him to carry on that attack. As we can see Jake Bonoski in the background, he's going to be looking to take his lap back if he can. He's closing, I believe. 3 laps down to our leaders. Getting a close look at that damage on that left-hand door. From the incident involving Kevin Haas. There are 4 laps to go now. Kevin Haas. 4 laps to go. It looks like there's smoke and looks like somebody's have a little bit of an off. Not quite sure who, however, the caution doesn't fly, thankfully. Kevin Haas surely is relieved there, because a caution at this stage of the race would mean a green-white checkered, and Nick Leo may have had another chance at the win if he pits for new tyres, but as it stands, Kevin Haas will be your winner if things stay as it is. 4-second gap to Matt Clayman now. As you have 2 laps to go, that's your order. 5 drivers on our lead lap. Our current climber there, our current star, up 11 spots from where he began. Matt Clayman in the number 2 spot. He's drove an absolutely brilliant race, keeping his nose clean. Up into P7 as the white flag flies. Or P2, excuse me. I'm not sure why I said P7. As we have our final lap here at Atlanta Motor Speedway. It looks like Mark Osano having a little bit of an incident on the apron there. However, the caution does not fly, crucially, as Kevin Haas comes round out of turn 4 to win round 10 of the Rubbins Racing Next Gen Series. He is your winner for today, followed by Matt Clayman. Nick Cleo, P4 goes to Robert Mathis Jr. if he can make your way around safely. Off Jake Vinosky. Yeah, I think that's the end of the race now. Leaf Smith, your P5 driver, crossing the line now. That's your top 5. However, though, star of the show, Kevin Haas, getting ready to do his burnouts. Absolutely great victory from him. A dominant one as well. With the gap that he had, coming home in that P1 spot. Brilliant job from him. Gonna have a look at our race results now. Kevin Haas coming home in the number 1 spot, followed by Matt Clayman. Nick Leo rounding out your podium in P3. Robert Mathis Jr. coming home in P4, followed by Leaf Smith in P5. Carter Lintz in P6. Aaron Sire in P7. Garrett Hall in P8, followed by Stephen Gibson P9. Jake Vinosky in P10. Mark Asano in P11, followed by David Reed. And unfortunately, Dominic DeLeo rounding out the bottom of the pack after that incident that happened earlier on in the race. 67 laps down from the leader. That is your final results here today, as we're just going to try and get our drivers up into the commentary booth for interviews. As we're going to interview our P3 driver today, Nick Leo, coming home in that P3 position. Nick Leo, do you have a copy?
Yeah, I got you.
Brilliant race from you, coming home in that P3 spot. A couple of incidents, though, going on. There was an incident I noted earlier on with Kevin Haas spinning you in the dying moments of the race. Would you like to take us through what happened, really?
Yeah, I don't think that was the three's fault. I think that was the 29. I think it was a little bit, maybe a little payback for Gateway, but it seemed like he just stood on the brakes and I went to avoid him, and the three just had nowhere to go. But it was no hard feelings. It was hard racing. I just wish me and the three could have raced it out to the end there.
Yeah, I'm sure definitely for the win of the race, you guys were battling all the way through. It was definitely a thrilling one to watch. In terms of strategy as well, you played the long game, stretching out that gap in front and then pitting the last out of everyone. What were you thinking there? Were you thinking about the tyre advantage, or what was the plan with the strategy?
I just figured I was getting worried about blowing a tire out. I mean, it was getting super tight, so I wanted to go in at lap 30. I think I ended up going in with 35 to go. Just, I don't know. I think that I came out right behind a three. I wasn't sure what his strategy was, but shame I couldn't race it out. I had some damage at the end there, but still good fun.
Yeah, good fun. That's what counts. But yeah, before you leave the commentary booth tonight, is there anyone cheering you on from home? Any family, friends, sponsors?
Yeah, shout out to all the viewers and the broadcasters and everybody at the Rubbins Racing crew and Jewel, of course, and Chevrolet, and looking forward to next week. I think we're at Martinsville. That should be fun.
Yeah, should be very, very fun. Looking forward to see you there. Thank you very much. I'll see
Yep.
you next week, hopefully.
Yep. Thank you.
I was just bringing our P2 driver now. Matt Clayman up 11 spots from where he came, coming home in that P2 spot. Matt Clayman, do you have a copy?
A copy.
Yeah, it's definitely a brilliant race for you. Up 11 spots from where you began. Just take us through, just a run through really quickly of what happened in that race that led up to you finishing so high.
Well, I hadn't gotten much practice, so I was just going to ride in the back, and then the whatever happened on the initial start at the start finish line made sure that I was going to ride in the back for most of the front half of the race. And then I just kind of, I don't know, after the one caution we got, I got tires and came out in seventh or whatever, and I figured I'd push it, but not too much because I still hadn't had much practice.
Yeah, definitely. But people crashing in front of you as well, giving you that free spots basically. You were just don't exactly know the word for it, but the stars aligned for you. Everything came in your way, and you definitely got that P2 spot. A lot of points coming home, especially so late in the season. Points do matter a lot for where you finish. Um, yeah. Is there anyone before we leave? Anyone cheering you on from home? Any sponsors, friends, family?
I'd like to thank you guys for putting this on all the time. You guys do a great job. RubbinsRacing.com for the league, Butt Kicker for the sponsorship, Rubbins Racing, Linden Steel, and even though he didn't race tonight, a better hammer, Wayne Grennan on Twitch. And again, you guys.
Thank you very much. I definitely enjoyed watching that race. Yeah, I hope to see you next week.
All right, appreciate it.
Just waiting to see if we can get our winner here. Not quite sure where he is. Yeah. So apparently Kevin Haas does not have voice comms, so unfortunately we won't get an interview from him today. Very unfortunate, but definitely was a very interesting race. I loved watching it, loved commentating it. I'm sure you did too. Don't miss a moment of the action. Make sure to subscribe to Team Goon Squad. Don't miss a moment of the action. Don't miss a second of Rubbins Racing Next Gen Series every Tuesday night, sponsored by Bookkicker. My name is Finney Fitzsimmons. That was Team Goon Squad. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys next week.